According to the National Electrical Code 2020 Article 422.12, a dedicated branch circuit is required for fixed sump pumps. This means the sump pump cannot share a circuit with any other electrical devices. The reason for this requirement is that sump pumps are considered essential equipment for preventing flooding in buildings. A sump pump that fails due to an overload or electrical fault could result in water damage to the property. There are a few exceptions to the dedicated circuit rule for sump pumps. Firstly, if the sump pump is part of a listed assembly that includes a dedicated circuit. Secondly, if the sump pump is part of a fire pump system. Thirdly, if the sump pump is a submersible pump that is installed in a dedicated sump pit. Installing a duplex receptacle for both a sump pump and a water softener on one circuit is a violation of the NEC. The sump pump must be on its own dedicated circuit. A separate circuit will need to be installed for the sump pump to correct the violation. Connecting a sump pump to a circuit that can be inadvertently turned off, such as basement lights, is not recommended. The sump pump should be on a circuit that is always energized to ensure it will operate when needed. The NEC is a comprehensive set of standards, and understanding its requirements is crucial for safe and compliant electrical installations. Always consult the latest edition of the NEC and local amendments for specific requirements in a particular jurisdiction. A dedicated circuit ensures the sump pump receives the power it needs without being affected by other appliances or devices on the same circuit. This is especially important during heavy rainfall or periods of high water table, where the sump pump needs to operate reliably. In addition to preventing water damage, a dedicated circuit also reduces the risk of electrical hazards. Overloading a circuit can cause overheating, which can lead to fires. By placing the sump pump on its own circuit, the risk of overloading is minimized. When installing a dedicated circuit for a sump pump, it's important to follow all applicable electrical codes and safety standards. This includes using the correct wire gauge, installing a properly sized circuit breaker, and ensuring that all connections are secure. It's also important to properly ground the circuit to prevent electrical shock. If unsure about any aspect of the installation, it's best to consult with a qualified electrician. They can ensure that the installation is done safely and in compliance with all applicable codes. Electrical codes are constantly evolving to reflect new technologies and safety practices. Staying up to date on the latest code requirements is essential for anyone working with electrical systems. This can be done by attending continuing education courses, reading industry publications, and consulting with electrical inspectors. Compliance with electrical codes is not only a matter of safety, but also a matter of law. Violations of the NEC can result in fines, penalties, and even legal action. Therefore, it's important to take code compliance seriously and to ensure that all electrical installations are done in accordance with the applicable requirements. The NEC provides detailed guidance on the installation of electrical systems in various types of buildings, including residential, commercial, and industrial. It covers a wide range of topics, including wiring methods, overcurrent protection, grounding, and equipment installation. The NEC is developed by the National Fire Protection Association (NFPA), a non-profit organization that is dedicated to reducing fire and other hazards. The NEC is updated every 3 years to reflect new technologies and safety practices. The NEC is widely adopted by state and local governments in the United States and is also used in many other countries around the world. It serves as a national standard for electrical safety and is an essential resource for electricians, electrical engineers, and other professionals working in the electrical industry. The specific requirements for sump pump circuits may vary depending on the local jurisdiction. It's important to check with the local electrical inspector to determine the specific requirements in a particular area. In addition to the NEC, there may be other local codes and regulations that apply to electrical installations. These codes and regulations may address issues such as permitting, inspection, and enforcement. It's important to be aware of all applicable codes and regulations before starting any electrical work. Some pumps are typically powered by either 120 volts or 240 volts. The voltage rating of the sump pump will determine the type of circuit that is required. 120-volt sump pumps are typically connected to a 15 amp or 20 amp circuit. 240-volt sump pumps are typically connected to a 20 amp or 30 amp circuit. The circuit breaker should be sized to protect the wiring and the sump pump from overcurrent. The wire gauge should be selected based on the amperage rating of the circuit breaker and the distance to the sump pump. It's important to use the correct wire gauge to prevent overheating and voltage drop. The NEC provides tables that specify the minimum wire gauge for various circuit ratings and distances. These tables should be consulted when selecting the wire gauge for a sump pump circuit. In addition to the wiring and circuit breaker, the sump pump circuit should also include a ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI. A GFCI is a safety device that protects against electrical shock. It works by monitoring the current flowing through the circuit and quickly interrupting the power if a ground fault is detected. GFCIs are required in areas where there is a risk of electrical shock, such as bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor locations. They are also recommended for sump pump circuits. When installing a GFCI, it's important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. GFCIs must be installed in a readily accessible location so that they can be easily tested and reset. The NEC also provides requirements for the location of electrical receptacles in damp or wet locations. Receptacles that are installed in these locations must be protected by a weatherproof cover. This cover will protect the receptacle from moisture and prevent electrical shock. Sump pumps are often installed in damp or wet locations, so it's important to use a weatherproof cover for the receptacle that is used to power the sump pump. In addition to the electrical requirements, there are also plumbing requirements for sump pumps. The sump pump must be installed in a sump pit that is properly sized and vented. The sump pit should be located in a low-lying area where water is likely to accumulate. The sump pump should be connected to a discharge pipe that carries the water away from the building. The discharge pipe should be sloped away from the building to prevent water from flowing back into the sump pit. It's important to follow all applicable plumbing codes when installing a sump pump. These codes will ensure that the sump pump is installed safely and correctly. In addition to the dedicated circuit requirement, the NEC also addresses the use of extension cords with sump pumps. The NEC prohibits the use of extension cords with permanently installed appliances, such as sump pumps. This is because extension cords can be easily damaged or overloaded, which can create a fire hazard. If a sump pump needs to be powered from a receptacle that is not located nearby, a new receptacle should be installed closer to the sump pump. This will eliminate the need for an extension cord and ensure that the sump pump is powered safely. The NEC also provides requirements for the maintenance of electrical systems. Electrical systems should be inspected regularly to identify any potential problems. Any problems that are identified should be repaired promptly. Regular maintenance can help to prevent electrical hazards and ensure that electrical systems operate safely and reliably. Sump pumps should be inspected regularly to ensure that they are operating properly. The sump pump should be checked for signs of wear or damage. The sump pit should be cleaned out to remove any debris that may have accumulated. The discharge pipe should be inspected to ensure that it is not clogged or damaged. Regular maintenance can help to extend the life of a sump pump and ensure that it is ready to operate when needed. In summary, the NEC requires that fixed sump pumps be connected to a dedicated circuit. This requirement is intended to prevent water damage and electrical hazards. When installing a dedicated circuit for a sump pump, it's important to follow all applicable electrical codes and safety standards. This includes using the correct wire gauge, installing a properly sized circuit breaker, and ensuring that all connections are secure. If unsure about any aspect of the installation, it's best to consult with a qualified electrician. Furthermore, it is essential not to connect the sump pump to circuits that can be inadvertently switched off, such as those serving basement lights. The pump should be on a circuit that remains consistently energized to guarantee its operation when necessary.